We did not put their address, of course, in the bulletin out of respect for them and their privacy. But when you sign up, you will be given their address for us to meet. So it's very important to sign up so that you can receive the text and the information this coming Friday night. So I want to thank the Briggs for opening up their home. And we're all going to pack in there and be in there and have a good time with our couples. And we praise God. And also in April, I believe we will be having our community community fellowship training regarding our life groups. And that's very important. And you'll hear more about that later. Today begins uh, Black History Month, the first Sunday in Black History Month. God bless you, ushers. And I do realize that we are streaming and there are CDs, and this may be heard in other venues, but I cannot neglect the truth. And as much as I tried to get away from preaching, I'm just going to do regular preaching. I asked the Lord, but this topic just kept coming up in my spirit. And I want to share every Sunday this month. I want to begin a series today on the importance of the Black church. The importance of the Black church. I'm going to challenge your thinking, and I'm going to challenge the status quo, because I'm going to challenge a little bit from the social aspect, what we've heard and what we see. And I'm also going to combine the spiritual accountability in letting the people of Rosemark know that if we don't preach Jesus, we're not getting the real message across. And so in everything we do, we need to preach Jesus. Our world is lost, and we need more of Jesus. But can you indulge with me for a few moments that as we preach Jesus, there are so many other things that undergird our social living, that undergird our everyday lifestyle, that as we live for Jesus, there are so many other things that we have to be guided and led by him in making the right decision. But also being led by him in making the right decisions, we must also be consciously and socially aware of the times in which we live. I have a major concern today that as we're going to sing this song before we leave, called Lift Every Voice and Sing, I have a concern that a lot of our children don't know the lyrics. I have a concern that a lot of our young professionals and youth, and even my age, because I consider myself young, don't understand the purpose of the Black church. Historically, Black colleges and universities, we don't understand, nor do we value the existence nor the experience. In Gibson Orgle Hall at LeMoyne College, when I took freshman orientation, it was mandatory chapel service. And in chapel service, we learned the college anthem theme. Far above the Mississippi shore, where the sea sail ships pass by, doth wave the purple and the gold. That's our colors at LeMoyne College. I remember that today. We also learned lift every voice and sing. But now that seems far removed from our young people's mind. And I want to begin the celebration of Black History Month in reigniting, regenerating, and restoring the importance and the purpose of the Black church in the Black culture. This has become a hot topic over the past 10 or 15 years because of the rise of multicultural and mega ministries. And the problem with that, y'all just walk with me now, has been that we compare multicultural and mega with the Black church. And the Black church average members 50 to 75 members, closely or right at the national average of churches in America, which is in many cases is not multicultural nor mega. Yet it has been compared with as the same, and may I say that it has been compared unfairly. My intent is not to offend any race, any vision or mission of Caucasian congregations, nor the spirit of unity that is desired across denominational and cultural lines. But I must state the facts, and I must confirm what the realities that lie within our society are. 87% of African Americans report that they are affiliated with a particular religious group. 95% of that 87% rather, claim to be Christians, according to Pew Research Center. Now I want you to think about that for a minute. 87% of us said thank you for recording me. 87% of us report that we are affiliated, I want you to share this message, with a particular religious group. Almost 100% of that 87% said we're Christian. Based on a recent study, and I'll have new figures for you to dig deep in that on a message I'm preaching next Sunday. The Black church possesses several hallmarks that are esteemed by other ethnicities and cultures. Our individual dynamics and personalities are exhibited through worship that comes from the emotional release with such gratefulness to God that I made it another day. This is the slavery aspect where we come from. They were so thankful. Emotional release in slavery time. Another day I made it. Females without being raped by their white masters. Another day that Black men made it without being hung out of expressing their manhood and standing up for their families. Another day, children are thankful that they weren't kidnapped and sold into slavery. An emotional release with such gratefulness that's expressed in Psalm 63:3, one of their scriptures that they read back in the 19th century, because thy loving kindness is better than life. My lips shall praise thee. As congregants met, slaves met in the afternoon, And in the evening, after chores were done, master's house was clean. Master's dinner was prepared and served in fields and tended to cattle and herd and animals. Then it was time, what is expressed in the Negro spiritual. I'm going to lay down my burden down by the riverside. After fighting emotional tears, feeling less than human, I'm going to lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside. Then knowing that there's a better place prepared for them, by faith they began singing, I'm going to try on my long right road down by the riverside. And then when thinking about their heavenly reward, they said, I'm going to try on my starry crown down by the riverside to study war no more. Belief in God, regular prayer, worship attendance, and belief in life after death with the God Almighty. With God Almighty are some of the core beliefs that begin at the forefront of the black church. How can we worship, slaves said, the same God that they worship and still treat me as if I'm nothing? How can Master not feel a conviction when he reads the word of God and manipulates the word to use the letters of Paul and slavery to condemn blacks in slavery because they could not read? Has Bibles in his home and yet does everything he can to stop the Negroes from learning how to read. Because if a Negro ever learned how to read, he'll become better than me. He'll become just as smart as me. He'll learn that when Paul was talking about slavery, he wasn't talking about being enslaved. He was comparing the slavery of that time, which Paul condemned, to slavery to Jesus Christ. But if I couldn't read, I won't understand that. We've neglected the importance, or don't understand the importance of the black church. Slavery bred the need. It bred the need of a black institution where we could freely worship and release the anger from suppression. Teach others how to read the Bible. Allow God to restore us and build our faith in him, in knowing that God will take care of us. I want you to hear me. Don't close me out. The same book that was used to justify their enslavement, the slave found comfort. The black church became purposeful in meeting the spiritual, hear me, young people, the social, educational, and personal needs that were denied through the indecencies, the injustices of their present day society. It denied them the humanity with the same resistance that humans throughout history have shown oppression. Black folks were socially resisted, culturally deprived, and spiritually malnourished. Now, let me get into the meat of my message. We have a situation that is explained by Everett Hughes. And Everett Hughes wrote a memoir, the introduction there of E. Franklin Frazier. E. Franklin Frazier was a very popular Negro sociologist in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, well educated. And here's what he said in the memoir, the introduction that he wrote concerning letters and that time. He said, we have well-meaning whites who tried to escape full responsibility of American racial injustice by inviting nice Negroes to dinner to prove they had no prejudice. Please hear me today. This statement is not an indictment against worship, innovation, sincerity, progression, coffee, donuts, projected screens, lights, but it has caused a reflection and a stop sign for enlightenment to our millennials, young professionals, and seasoned African American population who has left and is pondering leaving the black church experience for what the black church is not, without understanding the black church and why the black church was created. For example, its dress code. Lawrence Richardson article, Why Black People Dress Up for Church. He said for hundreds of years, black people didn't have the freedom to wear what they want. They worked in Massa's house, you wore a uniform. You worked in Massa's field, you wore a sack dress and overall. And now that I experience freedom from oppression, I can finally express my feelings and my true identity through my dress. As far as coming to church, we do as the British do. When they visit royalty, they wear their finest to go and meet royalty. When I woke up this morning, I knew that I was coming to meet royalty. When I stepped out the bed, I put on my black suit. I put on my holy garments. I put on my clergy tie because I knew I wasn't coming just to meet you, but I was coming to meet the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. I was coming to meet royalty. So if Great Britain can dress in their finest to go meet royalty, I know that the black church coming off the fields and getting out of those overalls and sack dresses and getting cleaned up and washed up because I'm going to meet the King. And if I can just make it to the house of the Lord, I know they've been beating on me all night. I know I've been in the field chopping cotton, but let me get to church. Just let me get there. See, if you don't understand the purpose of bow ties, three-piece suits, and shine shoes, you'll just think we're overdressed. But there's something about our culture down through hundreds of years that when we dressed up, we felt like somebody. You don't understand because you hadn't been beaten. You don't understand because people don't call you nigger at the bus stop. You don't understand because you hadn't protested at Woolworth's lunch counter. But if you had been there, you would have a different approach. And you wouldn't have the nice Negro mentality. You would value the church experience. Y'all sit down. I don't mean to offend anybody, but I'm just telling you history. We don't only argue about dress codes, we talk about time. You must understand that after slaves worked in the fields and worked in the house, when they were allowed to go to church, they stayed as long as they came. They ate there, they fellowshiped there, they met people there. Hadn't seen cross the field in 2 weeks. They met when they came. They didn't know if they were going to come back next Sunday. They didn't know when the next appointed time will be. But since we're here, teach me how to read. Since I'm here, teach me what I didn't know. So the smart slaves taught the slaves that were ignorant in knowledge, stayed as long as they can, had 2 and 3 services. They ate together. They fellowshiped, spent time singing in prayer, singing songs like I ain't got time today. Singing songs like children, one day we shall be free. Singing songs like go down Moses, down in the Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh to let my people go. These were the experiences with time. They said 20 minutes, 30 minutes won't do. Everything is instant now. We stay in church 45 minutes, it's too long. And we ain't gonna do nothing but go home or go somewhere and eat and go home and lay down and put on that. We ain't gonna do nothing. But when we now, I don't have a disrespect or a dishonor for rest. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we got to understand where time, dress code, where all that came from as a people. There was something we had that the other church didn't have. First of all, we couldn't worship with them. And so the slave's faith was in true and living God, the Almighty. Through toils, injustice, inhumane treatment, there must be a God. There must be a God keeping me. There must be a God watching over me. And so when we look at the purpose and why it was created, when we understand that, and let me tell you, the accountability, we'll look at the black church differently. Accountability is on leadership. We're doing different things here. We have different things, even in the building of the new park. It is to make sure that we are in sync with the time, to offer different things to the people of God to enjoy the worship experience. All of that is to enhance our worship experience, but it is not to neglect the black culture's identity. It is not to neglect the black culture's identity. And so in Genesis 28:15, he said, as the slave said, I know there must be a God, but they did not understand. How can the white church on the hill with the steeple worship God and leave church and beat me? Leave church and rape me. Leave church and sell another human into slavery. Didn't have me, had me on the right. I wasn't even a part of the population, but I was listed under livestock. Their faith said, God, you got to be watching over us. There must be a God. They hold truth to God. And I'm fearful today that we don't have the same grip on God like our ancestors had. My God, we're living better. We're riding better. We're dressing better. But we don't have the grip. Sometimes I wonder, do we have too much? Have we made too much money? Do we have too many cars? Do we have too many clothes? Because distractions in life will lessen your grip on God. Genesis 28:15, they begin to quote that scripture. I'm with you, said the Lord, and I'll watch over you. I won't leave you until I have done what I promised you. And so their Sunday time with the Lord reassured them, and I'm coming to close, that trouble won't last always. It was the black church that gave them their hope from freedom. Every civil rights movement involved the black preacher and the black church. I'll say it again. Every civil rights movement, every abolitionist movement had the involvement of the black church and the black preacher. I'll say it one more time. Every abolitionist movement, every civil rights movement had the involvement of the black church and the black preacher. The black church taught me how to speak in front of people. The black church taught me how to dress. The black church gave scholarships to young people. The black church founded colleges and universities. It was the black church that gave us the foundation of livelihood through God. I said through God. I said through God. The black church gave us what we have. And I'm fearful that nor do we know the purpose of the black church. The purpose of the black church is not to compete with Bellevue Baptist. The purpose of the black church is not to compete with Life Church. We can complement, but we don't have, that's not our purpose. Everybody has their own distinct identity, and we learn from each other. I learned from all that, man. I can't tell you books and things that I've learned and videos I've watched. I've learned, but me learning does not allow me to negate what is culturally sound and what I know has been for me. Bishop Richard Allen, widely considered to be the father of the black church. Here's what happened. He founded the AME. Born into slavery, bought himself out of slavery by the age of 20, ordained by a minister around 1784. Here's what happened. He became increasingly put off by the racism that he experienced in church. Racist segregation of the United Methodist community. So what did he do? He started meeting with the African Americans. They had the first black denomination in the United States. And here's what happened. He formed the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Out of the disdainment, segregation, and racist behavior that went on at that time in the United Methodist congregation, he formed the African Methodist Episcopal Church, which is documented as the first black denomination in the country. 1844, there was another split out of the United Methodist Church, and it was due to the same thing. And it was called the Colored first up until 1954. Actually, the Colored Methodist Episcopal Church. Out of the disagreement, here's what it is. In their conference in the early 1800s, they disagreed on slavery. And so the Colored Methodist Episcopal, for it was first known as, then it changed in 1950s to the Christian United Methodist Church. And at the forefront of these changes, fighting for equal rights, or shall I say rights at all, was the black church. Let me tell you something, I'm not ashamed. With all of its flaws, with all of its defects, I'm committed to making the black church the best it can be. You ain't gonna talk to me today. I said with all of its flaws, and we do have a many, with all of its defects, and we do have many, I'm committed, John Smith, to making the black church the best it can be. If it's education, if it's learning, but I can't do it through John's strength. I got to do it through God's strength. And making it better doesn't mean you're isolated. Making it better doesn't mean that you stand alone. Making it better doesn't mean that you don't learn from other people who are doing things better than you. But making it better means that you understand who you are, and you understand what you are, and you understand the purpose of the black church in our time. When you look at our times now, things are being segregated again. Look at Medicare and Medicaid. Even the government done shut down. You look at all of these things, everything is zoning in back to the black church. Our people must understand, and I believe this, because I know what this church is all about and what it has done. Ain't nobody gonna help you like the black church. Oh. You don't have to stand in line at Rosemont. You don't have to speak to 20 people at Rose. You don't have to go through an entourage. You understand what I'm saying? I'm using Rosemont as an example, but I've never been white, I've never been Hispanic, but I've been black all my life. And I found out that as far as I'm concerned, black people has always been forgiving and helping. You'll be on your job and you're trying to find out, how can I ease the tension? Ain't nobody else thinking about easing nothing. You sitting up here thinking about, how can I go out? What can I do to so? Ooh, that didn't sound right there. Ain't nobody else thinking about that. Black people are always thinking, but let me tell you, at some point, we got to stand up and say, enough is enough. Ain't nothing nice about this situation. So I'm not ashamed. It can get better. If it can't get better, rather, if it doesn't have the people that understands its purpose. Some things just keep telling me that it's going to get better. I'm reminded of one whose trials and tribulation, inhumane treatment, was not on the same level, but similar in so many ways. He was beaten, he was scorned, he was even crucified, but he yet lived. Jesus the Christ, the Son of the living God, what a story to tell. The black church needs to know about the suffering of Jesus, and if he can overcome Satan, we can overcome some things that's even caused by our own sin. It's been told thousands of years. It yet remains the central focus and core of salvation through faith. You will allow me to distinguish the roles and align the similarity. Theophilus Eugene Bull O'Connor played the role of Pontius Pilate. Can I get any help in here? When you look at history in 1961, the angry Klansmen who attacked the Freedom Riders at the bus stop, Birmingham in 1961, played the role of the church. And the church angrily demanded that Jesus be crucified, that Barabbas go free, but crucify Jesus. His innocence, his passion for man to be free from sin, his miraculous acts didn't matter. But they were fueled by hatred and jealousy and pride that they wanted Jesus to pay. And he died on the cross, suffering the right for the right and died, and his blood was shed for the remission of sin. He died on the cross, a gruesome death that we might live. Nothing else can compare. Nothing else can be related to. But just look at a very minute similarity of those who died so that we could be free. Henry Box Brown, William Wells Brown, Moses Dickerson, most of us hadn't even heard of these people, Thomas Dalton, Charles Douglas, Frederick Douglass, James Fortune, Francis Harper, Lewis Hayden, Harriet Jacobs, they died so that we could be free. 12.8 approximate million slaves. I'm going to talk about this next week. They're estimating came through the transatlantic slave trade. Only 330-some thousand made it to land. So what that's saying is that 800-some thousand, 12 million, about 400-some thousand, 300-some thousand African slaves are crying from the bottom of the sea. Crying from the bottom of the sea, saying, look to God. He's the only one that can help you. Doctors and lawyers cramped on a ship. I want you to hear this gruesomeness. Eating each other's feces. Dying in ships. Pregnant women. Old young men, children. Sitting up in ships. Dying. Jumping overboard. Eaten by sharks. All of their hearts and spirit crying from the bottom of the sea. And you don't have no honor for the black church? You don't have no respect for the black church? Lewis Hayden, Henry Garnett, Mifflin Gibbs, abolitionists all crying against the institution of slavery. We got nerve enough to sit up with our intellectual self and talk about each other and discredit the humble upbringing that you had. And when you look back on those days, we got nerve enough to say, if it ain't Nike, I ain't wearing it. We got nerve enough to say, if I don't have a TV in my room, I don't. We got nerve enough to say, whatever popular car, I don't want to ride in this car. I don't want to wear these clothes. We got nerve enough to say, to get up and think we more than ourselves. When we all. You come up on hot dogs and slaw. And now you trying to act like you can't eat nothing but a steak. Like you act like you don't know what a fan is. You can't ride in my car because I don't have AC. Sometimes I wonder, have we gotten a little higher than we ought? Sometimes we need to come back to the reality that somebody died for me to work where I'm working. Somebody died for me to live where I live. Somebody died for me to wear what I'm wearing. Somebody died for me to get a college degree. We ought to be thankful. God used somebody. It was God using somebody to stand up for what's right. And because you make $100,000 and some a year, you don't want to be black no more. You don't look the way, you don't like the way you look. Nose surgeries, lip surgeries, hip surgeries, breast surgeries, all kind of buttock surgery, all kind of, because you don't like the way you look. And people jumped off a boat and was eaten up by sharks. Say, I can't make it, but y'all get there. And when you get there, fight for what's right. I could hear Harriet Tubman in my spirit on that Underground Railroad. Pastor don't know I'm here. I can hear Jesus calling me. I could hear her going down. Shh. Somebody calling my name. When she was down there having prayer meeting in the Underground Railroad, they don't understand. I hear Jesus calling. Don't read that in the history books about the Underground Railroad and the churches and the biblical, because she could read. They didn't like her because she was a strong black woman and she could read. She said, I don't have to be down here. Have to pick no cotton. There's a better life. I came to tell you, Jesus died so you could have a better life. Let me tell you something. If you living in sin, you're going to be happy for a while. But sooner or later, sin going to run out. All that, you happy and on a high hog now. But let me tell you, sin has consequences. Sin has consequences. You work all your life, go to school, and then you leave, lose your integrity, all because of sin. You got to wake up. Jesus died that you might have a right to the tree of life. And let me tell you something. All of this stuff about Muhammad and this teaching and all that, let me tell you, you better get Jesus. Because sooner or later, you're going to need somebody to pray for you. And Muhammad can't heal you. Stand up, bro, Bruce. I'm going to leave you on this. Stand up, bro, Bruce. When he took the doctor's test the other day, and it came back and it said no spots. They took it out. They took it out. First they had the surgery, then he had to follow him. And they went in there. So you got to understand this story. This ain't his first surgery. So he'll go out, they'll clean him out, then they'll see a little spot, they'll clean him out, see a little spot. But I thank God for complete healing. Let me tell you why I thank God. First of all, I thank God because some folk didn't make it through the first service. All right, I'm going to keep going until you get it. Secondly, I'm thankful because some people didn't make it through the second service. And thirdly, I'm thankful because some people didn't make it to surgery. So what I'm saying is, through God and his power, I want to thank God for the black church. All of its flaws, all of its, hey, I'm committed to making it the best. I'm committed to learning new strategies. I'm committed to learning new ways, but I'm not going to dishonor and discredit its purpose and its history. I'll be black till I die. And if you live long enough, you will too. And what I found out, where I work, where I go to the grocery store, when I go to Macy's, When I go to different places, sometimes society has a way of reminding me I'm still black. You can love it, hate it, indifferent. I'm just telling you the truth. Society has a way of reminding. No matter where you live, how much money you got, ask some of the millionaires and the people on TV and the artists and the actors and all. It's got a way. Look at the film director. The difference between him and Bill Cosby. They took his shows off, but the movies he made and produced still running. Society has, I don't care how much money you, care what you got, it has a way of reminding. That's why you got to have God. This ain't, you ain't no racist. You're living in reality. God help me to know how to treat white people, black people, Hispanic. And the bad part about it, we can be worse to each other. I came to tell you, Rosemont, don't forget God. I said in the beginning of the message, this is not an indictment. Ain't no mean folk. I'm not a Black Panther. I'm a black preacher. And part of my job is to first preach Jesus. But also my job is to make you consciously and socially aware of what's going on. And this month, not just this month, but all the time, we need to help our people understand how to dress. I'm closing. Talked to the manager at McDonald's yesterday, and saw him in a while the other day. Got signs up. McDonald's management program. Got signs in there. Said, Pastor, we can't keep nobody. Said, young folk don't want to work. He said, we got jobs. He said, we got a whole management program. But they be late, call in, or don't want to work. I said, Lord, let me make. He said, just send them up here and let them know they from Rosemont and they from you. He said, Pastor, I have. He said, if they're qualified. He said, part of it is how they dress. He said, kids coming here with jeans on, coming here with shirt hanging out their pants. What? We don't teach that. When I went to Lamar Norton, the first thing they taught me in my class, missionary Rita Smith, she went there too. They said, when you go to an interview, you wear a white shirt. You wear a dark blue or a gray suit and a conservative tie. They taught me that in freshman orientation. They don't teach that no more. I'm talking about the black experience. And we don't go to HBCUs. They ain't got no money. They finna close. No, you need to go to learn something about yourself. Now, I'm not saying don't go to Vanderbilt, and because my daughter want to go. Don't go to Brad, don't go to good. I'm not saying don't go, but there are some good HBCUs too. I'm saying whatever you do, get the black experience somewhere, somehow. They don't teach that at U of M. I know we got some U of M graduates in here, no offense. Because I know you got a quality education. They didn't teach that at Christian Brothers. Because I know folk go there and ask. They didn't teach that at Union. They didn't teach that at Rhodes. But them professors took us by the side. My wife, know they did it at Tennessee State. They put us by the side and said, you people on there. They said, come on, Smith. You made a 6. Get that green up. What's wrong with you? You need the 2. Because they cared about it. And you need to be around some people that care about you. Folk can grin in your face, and you can go to Starbucks, and y'all be sitting up there grinning and look, and they make A's, and you be making D's, and you be wondering how they, because they got resources. You better talk to somebody up in here. He said, "Oh, we all want. I really want us to be this. But we live in a society that's so different. And I want to push us to be what we got. United Methodist preachers coming here. That's what I want to push us to be. But that's because I fight folks on me. They don't know my history. If we want to come together, I'm the first one. Let's come together and talk. When we come to the table, don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. When cocaine was in the neighborhood, you locked us up. Now white children don't marry. You call it opioid. Anybody know their history? Anybody know the Bill Clinton era? Now that the children in the other neighborhoods are jumping off bridges and getting high, now we got an opioid crisis, and the government is throwing millions of dollars. But our people still in jail from the 80s for a finger of crack. You got to know your history. And know, because if you don't know it, you'll be subject to repeat it. I'm coming to the table, I'm talking, but you ain't gonna fool me because you grinning at me. Because I'm gonna bring the issues of our community to the table. The mayor was here, he said it. He said, well, one thing about John, that he'll tell me. You heard mayor when he was here? He said, if it ain't working, he'll tell me to cut out. He'll tell me what I really want to hear. Sometimes we close the door and I tell him. I say, y'all ain't doing right with black folks. You know, if you don't know, don't ask me. But when I left out the room, I did my job. The chairman of the Shelby County Housing Authority, I was here at church, never will forget it. What is it? The police of the housing authority? What is it called? Huh? What is it? Oh, okay. Yeah, she there. She been in meetings with, but I was at the church, and the FBI, I can't go under lock because I can't, because this is streaming. But they showed up here at the door. Investigation. I had to be true. I didn't know what else. I was just serving. And they go, Sister Renee. I looked at that, saw them men. Officer of the Inspector General, thank you. And they came here, and I invited them in, and they came and met me for hours talking. Whole investigation. I was scared. I ain't never been in that predicament before. Went through that for a year and a half. The Lord brought us out all right. Do your job. If you're hired on a job, don't take a break for an hour if you only got 30 minutes. Iron your clothes. Start your shirt. Some of these business owners getting ready to hire some people. Shine your shoe. Don't wear nothing, too tight. They can see your panty lines. Your cleavage all low and all that. Be respectful. Be professional, because if they don't, I didn't mean to say panty. If they don't, they're not going to hire you. And you don't want people to hire you then talk about you. They were smart, but they look. You can't wear what everybody wear. Every hairstyle don't fit you. And everybody ain't going where you going. Everybody standing. Lord, help us to remember where we come from. But most of all, help us to be appreciative. Lord, we're nothing without you. I mean, God, we're nothing without you. I want to thank you this morning for your power to save. There's a person here that don't know Jesus. And you saying, Lord, if you can keep them and let them make a mark in history and take them through the storm and the rain, you can keep me. I want to give my life to you through your son, Jesus Christ. Every head bowed and every eye closed.